What is NYPL's Simply E? Well, Simply E is a mobile reading app that is being developed by the New York Public Library. And why am I here today is because libraries need a different type of DRM. So what do we need? Well, primarily it's around accessibility, interoperability, and openness. And this is so that we can actually serve our core mission, which is to get more people reading more books. In order to do that, we need to change a lot of things with the way that we service and deliver ebooks for our patrons at public libraries, especially public libraries in the U.S. We need to simplify the access to the content for both users and for libraries. We need to make the content more accessible. Public libraries in the U.S. are the only service organization, save for a couple of specialty companies that service those with visual reading impairments or other type of motor impairments to getting reading material. We need to get access to more content, meaning more markets for content, more distributors of content out there. We cannot be constrained to just a few commercial vendors to us. We need to get as much content as we can. And then simplify the discovery of that content for our patrons. In other words, if we can help improve digital literacy for our patrons, we can improve overall literacy for our communities. So what is Simply E? Well, it's a library reading app, as I started out with. It's also an ebook library, but it's also an ebook library aggregator. And we're also an open source community that's working on this project. And it's a collaboration between public and private institutions, profits and not-for-profits who have pitched in and helped us get to where we are today. So its product vision is pretty simple. In 3 clicks or less, be able to find, borrow, and read an ebook from the library. How does it work? Well, it simply mirrors collections from a multiple distributors out there. It is not designed to lock users into one type of proprietary ebook distributor. That is primarily how libraries have operated in the past. This is meant to be able to collect all that content as you would expect in a library, regardless of distributor, and be able to make that available to the user very simply. It normalizes the presentation of those catalogs using some standards-based interfaces, as well as some other standards-based technologies. And it will then do some of the other esoteric legwork you have for a library to lend an ebook, meaning making sure that they are a member of the library and they have authorized access to that. And of course, that's where we get into the DRM components of this. So the challenges that we had with the incumbent or legacy DRMs out there, they were non-conformant and inaccessible. For us, being able to serve the visually impaired when we buy content, when we distribute content, those with a visual impairment or other cognitive impairment or reading impairment must be given access. It's a non-starter. It's the core of what we do. Unfortunately, our ebook services didn't hold to that principle. The DRM rights management that we are using in our leased ebook services are not compliant. They don't satisfy some of the things that we would like to do as libraries in our unique position in the publishing industry. We're not publishers of content. We don't take the rights away from copyright holders. We want to preserve them. And in some ways, we're more around sometimes taking away access to content after we've provided it, more so than, let's say, a commercial app where you fire and forget, send the book off, you give them the rights. You don't have to worry about removing those rights on a regular basis, daily, for those people, or extending those rights. So there is a lot of technological deficit as well with some of the incumbent DRMs, and we also found that those DRMs typically either were technological deficits were a result of the current implementation of that DRM technology for a particular vendor, or the technology itself, and so that led to a lot of problems with us trying to normalize the user experience across libraries and different content vendors in distributing ebooks. So We had a lot of work cut out for us. We received initially a $500,000 grant to do this in a little under 2 years. Luckily, we did it. It did cost, we had to match the other $500,000 from the federal government to do this experiment. We did it under that amount, and we've subsequently doubled down as NYPL to invest in this application and make this platform available to others. It is an open source software app. There is licensed components of that, namely around the DRM and some of the reading technology from Medium, but the rest of the application and discovery is primarily open source. So the table stakes for us and why this has become probably the leading effort for the New York Public Library as a digital effort is around accessibility and interoperability and openness. We need new models for access. We can't do that if the existing lease services are locked to a particular business model, a particular licensing scheme or regime, a particular LIN duration, LIN transaction type. So we needed something that was flexible, that could let us work with publishers to explore different models of distribution through a public library, simultaneous use or multi-use at the same time, the ability to return or extend and renew licenses to content. We wanted to have a little bit more price control of that. So instead of paying up front for that LIN, even if the person doesn't download the book or ever open the book, that can be cost prohibitive. We have scarce resources as public libraries. So we needed something that would allow us to be more creative in the way that we strike our rights deals with different publishers and content providers, and explore new content distributors and new content providers with the library and not be prohibitive. The interoperability, we have a wide audience of people. They use a wide array of devices out there. Some of them are extremely digitally illiterate, meaning something as simple that we take for granted on an iPhone can be very, very difficult for them to understand and explore. So we had to be very, very creative in our user experience and really dumb it down and I shouldn't say dumb it down, simplify it so that it was just intuitive. It just made sense. Kind of that Steve Jobs motto of it just works, because you think it should work that way, it works that way. And again, we needed to be able to work with technologies that could allow us to enhance or advance accessibility, namely allowing the assistive reading technologies available on the app or on the platforms be able to access the content so that it can present that content to the user regardless of any type of visual impairment, cognitive reading disability, or motor impairment. So if you want to learn more, I thought I had a video in here. Maybe I didn't get the video in. But you can learn more about the project at Library Simplified. We have a little website. We have an open source GitHub repository, except for the DRM portions. And then we have a Slack community that anyone that's on the engineering side or even the digital distribution and publishing side can join in. And then you can just always email us to find out more. But we've released our first app, and it's done pretty well. What we found was, as a library, that most of our users, our library mission was to get more people reading more books. We found that after we released the app that our current services were only targeting customers at 1% of our collection. After we released the app, we've increased that by 400-fold. So we know that the curatorial efforts of libraries is a powerful way of recommendation, and that by taking the user experience and stripping away the commercial needs of the leased platforms and exposing the curatorial breadth of our collections, we're actually getting more content to more people faster, easier, and a broader range of people that hadn't used the library or really read for all that much from a public library. So that was a quick presentation. I hope I came in under the time. Core to this, though, has always been the DRM piece, and we're excited to be working with Sony. They've been a patient partner with us throughout the years as we've tried to build this app. Again, we're a public library, not a software company, but it's been a great experience, and I think it's been a great experience for our institution to learn how to make software, to understand what digital publishing is, at the heart of digital publishing, platform development, and to get behind what all these problems were that our vendors are struggling with, trying to get content to people. But thank you.